going on, guys? Welcome to the Essential Scares podcast, the only show that dares to ask the question, is it essential? I am your host, Corbin, and with me today, as always, is Allen.
Oh, hi. Good evening, everybody. How you doing?
And Bobby.
Gobble, gobble, motherfuckers.
Oh,
We have got a great show for you lined up today. We are going to be finishing off our month of Insidious with Insidious, The Last Key. But before we get into it, Bobby has a spoiler warning.
I do. This will serve as your first, one, and only spoiler warning for Insidious, The Last Key. If you do not want this movie spoiled for you, please skip to the time code provided in the description or show notes for our essential spoiler-free discussion. Having watched Insidious, The Last Key, I had but one question to ask my dear co-hosts upon finishing it. And that question was, so this movie franchise really just doesn't want to jump the shark, huh? Alan.
You know, they almost did.
So close.
Almost.
So close.
We're right here with the shark. We were like in the process of jumping over the shark, and then
Corbin,
we like
don't worry.
tripped.
Don't worry. The fifth movie will be the one that you'll get to say is essential. Don't worry, champ.
We'll see.
So this movie begins many years earlier with a prequel about... Yeah.
Oh, no, he's right.
Yeah,
he's
okay.
right. He's right.
See? Giving us a
You gotta
bit
let
of
him finish the
backstory.
sentence.
Yeah, you cut me off of me. Come on, cut me some slack.
Yeah.
I got
Sorry,
a plan
everyone's
here.
got their own style. Mine is cut you off.
That's fair. So it begins giving us a little more context behind Elise and the life she lived before when she was a little girl and growing up in Five Keys, New Mexico, where she sees some ghosties in her house and her dad beats that out of her. Or at least fails, or attempts to and fails to. We then flash forward into our modern day where Elise gets a scary, spooky call where she's like, okay, there's this address. Okay, this is fine. I'm used to this. And then comes to find out there's a man who's dealing with a haunting in her former house that she grew up in. She goes down there to find, indeed, Reno, it's still haunted. And sometimes... the demons that you not all demons are dead, as Elise points out so well. So from there we handle some business with the tenant of the house and find out that things are a little more complicated than we originally thought. And let's open it from there.
This movie doesn't need to exist. This movie shouldn't exist. This movie has no purpose in existing. I'm just going to say that right off the top. There is 0 point to this movie. I'm just going to say that right now because we don't need to totally harp on the fact that this movie is an exercise in nonsense, and we could talk about other bits of this movie, like the double serial killer plot, including the nice lady from the first movie's father being a literal serial killer. Very funny. Very funny. I'm on board now. I'm ready. I'm ready for 10 more movies.
This is all it took.
So,
what the fuck is this movie? What is it? Corbin, I'm sorry. You were about to say something?
no, well, I guess I wasn't expecting you to come off
I wasn't either.
so immediately strongly. Because I think I would probably disagree with even just your core analysis already. I think that this one deserves its place much more so than the third one. And, if this was just the third movie that came out as, this was the prequel, trying to explain not only Elise's background, but kind of, lead in and expand the universe a little bit, the Annabelle 2 of it all. I think that that's a great position to take, and I we're all being upfront. I mean, I quite enjoyed my time with this one, and I don't know. I don't think I would say that it is completely unnecessary. I think it's as unnecessary as any prequel ever could be. I don't know.
No, because what does this give you? What does this give you?
What is it? What do you mean?
What the third one, also a prequel, gave you something, right?
No. What?
Again, it was the whole point of the movie was be like, how did Specs, Tucker, and Elise get together? That was the whole point of that movie, and it gives you that.
But
this movie goes. You know, all this stuff that you didn't even consider was a possibility. Let's give you all of that now too. And it's like,
but that's more interesting because how they got together as a team. Unnecessary information. I couldn't care less about that. And also, it didn't happen until the very end of the movie, right? So you've got an hour and 15 minutes of like wasted time in the third movie. Whereas this movie is like a nice little like the further adventures of Elise and the Scooby-Doo squad. And it's like, oh, that's kind of nice. Like that's really what I wanted, right? Because the end of the second movie is setting you up to follow Elise as the main character with Specs and Tucker as like they're the leads, that's the story. And so it's like, okay, let's get a little bit more of them. Like, what else were they up to? Like, tie the demons together a little bit. Add things about Elise's background that are actually kind of interesting, as opposed to, like, her husband killed himself and we don't even know or care to talk about why. And, like, I feel like this did everything right that one did wrong. That's how I feel.
They could have done all of that and just made Elise like a ghost. Yeah. That would have been I would have been cool with that. If Insidious 4 The Last Key was the same movie, but the majority of the movie is Tucker and Specs like having to convey what Elise is saying the entire time because they can still
that'll just be the next movie.
Yeah,
but that could have been that's all this movie needed to be, and you could have had every like background scene happen, like all of like, oh, Elise's back, like her cruel fucking backstory could have just been in the further way more interesting. Like and it would have tied in way. This movie just feels like it's just like, fuck, we need to keep the property alive. Like,
no, I see. I disagree even with that. I think that's what the third movie feels like. Like the third movie feels phoned in every way.
Yes,
this I do not. This one feels like it is made with as much care as at least the second one was.
I don't even know about that. Because like it feels like the first two meant to exist, right?
Okay.
Like,
yeah.
And then 3 and 4, they're like, fuck, we got to keep it going because this keeps making us a fuck ton of money. And these both are equally as ham-fisted in different ways because they just listened to what the test audiences liked of the last movie and they just threw more into the next movie. Because this movie does have a lot more of Elise doing kung fu. Big about it.
Oh yeah, huge on that. I'm huge on that.
Yeah. The parts. This movie does have more ridiculous, fucking stupid subplots that go nowhere, and I'm big about it. For all of the wrong reasons. And this movie is one of those things where it's like, okay, so some of this goofiness absolutely has to be intended. Not all of it, because some of the jokes that they plant there fall very flat and do not work. But some of the stuff that's like, is this funny? I'm not exactly sure. Works very well in a way that it feels like they build upon one another in a very fun kind of way. So, like I said, this movie does not need to exist. But to a certain extent, some of it is just bonkers enough that I'm like, yeah, I'm about it.
So I think the big thing for me is, like, tone-wise, this movie, like, the beginning of this movie is very different, I think, than pretty much the rest of the franchise as a whole. It actually is kind of scary. Like, the beginning of this film is the scariest that Insidious has been, period. Because, like, that whole sequence with them as kids, all of it works for me. Literally the whole bit, start to finish. The 2 jump scares got me real good.
Yeah, what was the mask thing? What was that?
I don't know, but it made me jump out of my skin.
They never touch on that ever again.
It was a ghost. It was a kid. Well, because there was a kid ghost. Because remember, the kid ghost is who she was talking to, but then she was talking to, like, the key ghost thing in the closet.
No, I get that. I just
there's another sequence. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no. They just like, I agree with you, but it all feels like there's no connection point, right? Like I said, it's there's no connection point. That kid ghost never gets brought up again. Instead, they just go woman now. Like,
I mean, I don't think that matters though, because there's like they establish that there's like a bunch of ghosts. She sees different ghosts all the time.
Yeah,
like,
bring the ghosts
back. There's all sorts of other ghosts that
we see multiple ghosts the whole time.
Yeah, but like
every movie has ghosts that like don't
No,
don't matter.
I get that, but like it doesn't ever even connect to anything.
Well,
like
the point of that goes is
they had opportunities. They did. They were walking through that jail cells. They had opportunities to be like, look, it's the kid ghost.
That wouldn't have. No, see, like I just like
See,
I wouldn't have
that
gotten
feels
anything
like
out of
phoned
that,
in
though.
a weird way to me.
Yeah,
It's
the point
less
of
phoned.
The kid
it's
goes,
more. It's less phoned in than what they did, where they're just like dropping it completely. Absolutely.
Because the only reason the kid ghost is there is to establish that Elise sees ghosts, different kinds of ghosts, and other ghosts all the time, and talks to them regularly. So of course she's going to be seduced by the key ghost. Like
we're 4
right?
movies
like,
in. No
the
new
point.
person is not is this is nobody's first Insidious movie.
Yeah, but it's
but
set
you have to
50
set up
years
who
in the
she
past,
is.
so they
Yeah.
gotta
We don't need to set up who she is. We spent the last 3 movies discovering who she was.
But
This is why I'm saying it's even less necessary to have her cruel fucking backstory.
But I like the cruel backstory. I think it gives
too.
context behind who she is and why she does it,
It
more so than
feels so
just
forced.
I have a gift, I'm gonna use it. Like,
But that's who she was. It's like she's just kind of a nice lady who's a medium who's like, okay, this is how I do it. I'm very good at this job, and like that was a way more interesting character than Dad, who was a serial killer because Demon tried to beat it out of me and I ran away, and yada yada yada, blah blah blah, etc etc etc, and now here I am. Like I don't like that. Like maybe it's just I don't think it works for her character, and it does not. Like it's so clearly they decided to make this like this was never a thing that she thought about until Leigh Whannell hit a bump of coke and was like, by the way, you're abused now. Like at the start of the 4th movie. Like, because there's no connection point to it. This movie feels so separated in the same way the 3rd one does, but you have those characters that are like connected to it. But now Elise doesn't even feel connected to her character from the last 3 movies.
see, but I think
like,
she feels
that's-
more connected because, like, we establish in chapter 3 that like she's kind of at a rough patch of her life.
Yeah, because because her husband died.
Yeah.
Like, so like make it more about her meeting her husband and like the demons from her, like make it more about the suicide thing. You can do that. Like you can make that part of it. That would have been kind of interesting to delve further into that and have hey, you can even use the key ghost. You can even use the goddamn little key ghost kill the husband. Like,
I don't know.
why does she go? And why doesn't the woman in black show up again?
Because this movie erases the need for the 3rd movie. And like what I liked about this one is that it does lay connections between this movie and the first 2 movies in ways that feel more legitimate. Where like the Key Ghost and Darth Maul Ghost, like
Darth Maul Goblin.
I guess those are demons, right? Like whatever, whatever terminology they use in Insidious.
Well, Darth Maul Goblin's clearly a goblin, and the key, the Key Ghost is clearly a ghost.
Yeah. So I like that this one kind of establishes those, which are higher entities, right? In ways that make a little bit more sense. Whereas like the woman in black ghost is just a ghost, like it's just a person. And I think that part of the issue with the 3rd one is that it emphasizes so strongly like just like normal people, and it tries to elevate like the regular ghost to like this extra level, and it doesn't quite work because it feels so ham-fisted because you already associate the woman in black ghost to Patrick Wilson's character Josh, right? So it's like, well, what's the real connection here? Actually nothing, right? It's clearly ham-fisted. Well, whereas this movie, like the ghost connections actually make sense, and even like the Darth Maul ghost, like they write in his connection from this movie to the original is much better than his little jump scare in the 3rd movie, which makes literally no sense at all.
But they both are
like,
kind of shitty because it's the same jump scare from the first movie.
Yeah, but in
like
this one,
3 times.
Yes, but because it's a meme and they know it, and it's kind of, I like that about that. But like in
Don't
this one,
give them credit. They're just trying to get that cash kill. They're just sucking
it's a
on
meme.
that.
It's a meme. It's
on
a meme
that
on purpose. It's a
goblin
meme on
teat.
purpose. This time, like you're laying the foundation for how the goblin even got into the house in the first place, right? Like Elise let him in on accident, and you know that Elise has this ability, and maybe she's done that before, and you kind of like exploring her backstory and like the ways that she has or has not done things she maybe shouldn't have done with ghosts. And I think that that's just more interesting than what the third movie does. And I like how it ties to the first two. I like it.
What I like about that too is that, again, kind of it not just bridges the connection to the first movie, but it's also like how in the second movie, how they like are timey-wimey with things too. Like it makes
they
that
do that
whole
again. I like that
idea of time is very all over the damn place within this franchise. And that's more unique than I think we're giving it credit for. Just in a general sense, because there's not a lot of stuff that actually play with time in ways that are
used
good.
it really coolly, and I will fully admit that bit in Insidious Chapter 2 has grown on me. They use it. That's very. Although they use it in the most James Wan Lei 1L way of possible of giving you needed quote unquote context for things that did not need additional context. It was scarier the first time, and then they go, "Don't worry, it actually was." Patrick Wilson, or actually she was the reason why the door was open, instead of it just being like she's just like it doesn't the movie works
I just fundamentally disagree.
The first movie works so much better on its own that like these sequels have made an already movie worse. Yeah, the added context has not helped. And like,
wow.
While
I definitely feel like I've like grown as a fan of this franchise as we've went along. Like after the third one, I was a little bit worried. I was like, oh, maybe this franchise not so hot. And now it's like I'm re-excited for the fifth one. It's like, okay, like every franchise has a couple of stinkers. Third one, bad, whatever. But like we're there again. Like
I'm gonna watch the fifth one because again,
well, of course, we're gonna make it.
Listen. You don't have to make me. I'm gonna choose to watch the fifth one, and that has a lot
Patrick
to do
Wilson
with the
back.
fact that Patrick Wilson is back. If this franchise of film has done anything, it's made me understand why people love him as an actor. He might be actually be leading man quality now. That's what, because these second two movies have really suffered without him in like a really big way. I also will say this. I do love the fact that this movie goes even farther into let's just have old people be the main characters. I will say having Elise and Elise's brother having a relationship, even though it is very ham-fisted and you barely touch on it, there could have been so much. It's ham-fisted and you barely touch on it. There could have been so much more of a relationship there, but they had to have young actresses because that put asses in seats, and Leigh Whannell wanted to get a cheeky kiss in the end. Like that's because.
Hold on. He did get a cheeky kiss at that. He did not want it happened.
Yeah, okay, yes, he got it because again, that just seems unethical. But we're here.
I think only like I was waiting for them to like really set up Imogen as like Elise's replacement on the team, like living replacement on the team, and it's like I guess they could bring her back in the fifth movie because why not? But it now does seem a little bit weird, knowing that the other movies come after this and she's not there, right?
Yeah, because you would assume.
Are you saying that these movies create just as many, if not more, plot holes than they correct?
No, I'm not saying.
I'm saying that because it is.
I think one. Yeah, no, you're for sure saying that.
I think there's something about this.
Imogen does not an actual problem create.
It is not one Imogen. Watch the first movie again. You're like, wait a second. I thought this was cleared up. It is not. It is made much more muddy with the added context.
Something I think this movie does better than the rest of the other ones. I think that this movie finally figured out like how to do jump scares much more right. Because I think
this
of
one
again
is probably the scariest of the
absolutely
of the four. Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking of specifically the scene when it's like near the tail end and she's going through the suitcases and it keeps faking you out. You go, oh, here's gonna be the jump scare. Oh, here's gonna be the jump scare.
Like, oh, which one
here's
of these
gonna be the jump scare. And then they
finally
give it to you. But like the thing about it is, if this was Insidious 1 or 2, you would have had jump scares at every single one of those moments. They would have been there. But they actually
four spooky jump suitcases.
Yes, but they actually had a little.
But
more
all the
restraint.
while, there's no silence. It's just heavy, like out of tune piano.
But this is what I'm saying. Like they kind of figured out the formula of scares in this film work really well. Another one, when she's up in that room by herself and her father's jackets are a creature entity thing that then turn into just the jackets again, that works. That works very, very well.
That actually might have been the most artistic shot in all of the film.
It's again, like,
in all four. I will even agree with that, because that isn't like fake. That feels scary because there's just no payoff for it, and it also remains mysterious because you never touch it again, but you know that she never saw it, but you know you did, and that is the only flash of brilliance that this movie has.
I just can't agree with you, Bobby.
This movie has a lot of fun in it. I'm going to insult this movie because I'm a critic. This movie has a ton of fun in it. But that was the only flash.
You hear that?
Yeah.
You hear that?
Yeah. But this is the only flash of brilliance.
He's the critic. He's laying the foundation.
This is the only flash of brilliance that this movie has, is that scene.
The other part about this movie I really liked is I liked how they kind of pull the rug on you at the end with, that girl was a real girl. It wasn't just a ghost that Elise saw in the laundry room. Again, like, this movie, like, I understand your criticisms, Bobby. I get where you're coming from.
And I'm objectively correct about them, but continue.
We'll ignore that part. But I think this movie, like, of all of the series so far, this movie actually capitalized on ideas in ways that were much more interesting and paid off better than I think a lot of the other, many criticisms I've made of this franchise are, there's this good idea that they just don't execute well on. This movie actually does execute on those ideas in ways that are so much more... Now, part of this could just be I'm tempered by the fact that I've watched 3 movies that fail to really execute on too many good ideas. They fail more on their execution than they succeed, and I think this movie ultimately succeeds more on its execution than it fails.
That's insane to me. That is insane to me that you would say that and that Corbin would nod in agreement. Because this movie doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. It just doesn't. Everything that this movie does has already been done in the same franchise, minus the fact that at one point one of the ghosts was actually alive, right? Like that's like the one new thing that it does, and
this movie kills people, Bobby.
Dude, I don't care. I do not care. The squish sound is from it's
great.
It's from the Windows Movie Maker sound effect pack.
It's like that. It's like the stock sound of someone falling that we've all heard. Which I'm fine with.
You talking about the Wilhelm scream?
Yes, that is correct.
Are you talking about the Roblox?
That would have made that even better.
Yeah. Oh. Could you imagine if it was the Roblox oof? It was just oof.
That would be pretty good.
I don't know. I mean, I have a hard time saying that this one did anything new, sure, right? But the fourth entry of a franchise is probably not going to do a lot of brand new things. But I think that where this one succeeds is that it takes the ideas and the concepts of the previous movies, and it does kind of push them to that level that, at least that I've been looking for. It really embraces the further in a metaphysical way and not just a nothing world. I like that they really embrace Elise as the lead, which is different and unique. I like that they finally really go in on the fact that this is a non-Christian possession / ghost franchise, which is a huge element of the franchise that we just haven't talked about at all, and actually really sets Insidious apart from other
I
movies.
didn't think about that, because the fact that one guy has the Bible and he has the religion,
and she's just so they finally they really oh yeah, you might have been thinking this, and yes, you're right, this isn't about that. And I like that they just own it, Oh, yeah. So I think that this one maybe doesn't do new things, but I think that it just goes all the way there. Even the ghost design, the keyhole ghost is so clearly the scariest monster in the entire franchise. They've really gone for it.
I don't know. It just doesn't feel enough. There's nothing new like I think that's why it feels like so much of a wet fart to me. Is like it does not feel like I'm hearing the points, and like some of them I even agree with, but it like the franchise has been middling to say the least this entire time, and then it gets to this point where it's just like, yeah, I guess like we kind of retried the serial killer plot, but we made it have a little bit more stakes, and I guess like we kind of touched on the other things, and we kind of like we committed to Elise being the main character this time, so it only took us 4 movies, and don't worry. We're setting up that she'll never be the main character again, because if we do another prequel sequel, it'll be Imogen, and if we just do another sequel, we'll just make it be Patrick Wilson somehow, even though we rid their memories in the second one. They'll figure out a way, because fuck it, this movie makes a bajillion quadspillion fucking
make a lot of money.
A gorillion monkey-pilled jillion dollars.
Do you think that's because it's probably one of the better PG-13 horror franchises out there?
I have given it better ratings than I've given most PG-13 horror.
Maybe any PG-13. We haven't reviewed that much PG-13 horror, actually.
One of my notes is this might be one of the better pieces of PG-13 horror out there, and I'm gonna revise that. I think it definitively is one of the better.
Worst
pieces
fuck
of
out of the four out of the series, though. Worst fuck.
Did it? Hold on a second. Did 3 even have one?
You're a terrible fucking father.
Okay, yeah. What about 2? Was 2 the one that wasn't great? Yes, because 1 was like excellent.
Yeah, I'm just trying to do this my own fucking way. Yeah,
it's phenomenal.
You throw it away, but it lands harder because it's
So I would still say that this is overall a great use of your one F-bomb in a PG-13 film, though.
I liked it in this one. I even wrote it. I
put 3 out of 4
when
good.
the line happened.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's a good.
This feels like the most like, oh my fucking god, this like what is that, the room 1219 or whatever, the fucking Sam Jackson where it's like in the trailer it's like it's a cursed room, and then in the movie he's like it's a cursed fucking room, and like that was the one it just feels like they added it because like, oh, we have to add a fuck here, we're known for our good fucks. Like it feels again, that's the thing about this movie, is it feels like they had again ideas that they wanted to add to it, that they felt like this will add to the series, and then they did all those ideas, and they did that, but like that's all the movie was like, how can we really cement these we have to take all these cemented ideas of the Insidious franchise and put them all into this, right? We have to have a scene where we do a Ghost Adventures, we do a Ghost Bros scene. We have to have a scene where turns out that there's actually been a lot of people actually murdered in this house. We have to do a scene where Elise goes through a red door. And it just, I don't know. And here, we'll add more to Elise's plot because, whatever. And like I will agree with you and give kudos that her being the final girl in this is the most fun.
Yeah. Easily.
Yeah.
So how much, I know we've talked about the whole movie jumping the shark thing. Corbin, specifically you, how much did you love when Elise's mom shows up at the end and literally blasts the ghosts like just into the abyss? I fucking loved it. I was laughing. It was great. Mm-hmm. It was like, this movie gets it. It understands. It got it, finally.
Kind of the same way as like a lot of the other things in this movie, where taking the previous concepts and like finally kind of like notching them up. That was like, okay, what if the thing from Insidious 3, where we brought the mom back, is like a good ghost, and she just like didn't really do anything, but this time like she does some action, This time she's super powered.
Hey, look, it's another thing. They're like, that's great. Moms, that's another theme of this movie, that these movies that they decide they needed to throw here. Moms rule, okay? Dads, they drool, but moms rule.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's fun. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say.
I didn't say it wasn't fun.
It.
I didn't say it wasn't fun, but it's not a good movie, and you have to admit that. You know I'm right about it.
You're not gonna like it when we get to the scoring section, buddy.
I think that it's pretty good.
You're gonna say you think it's probably the best movie, weren't you? You're gonna say you think it's probably the best movie. Commit to that statement. Commit to that statement, or stop yourself now.
Because I think that it is. I mean, why go any further if we're not scoring now? But.
Fine. How do you want to rate this piece of shit?
Well, I would like to rate this movie on a scale of 0 to 5 with half points allowed, right? So a score like 3 or 3.5 totally allowed. A score like 1.75 not on the rating. For this is a special episode, right? It's the end of our franchise month. We have this is the first time we've ever covered an entire franchise. So just to refresh everybody, right?
Thank you.
Along the way, I gave Insidious and Insidious Chapter 2 a 3 out of 5, and Insidious 3 a 1.5. And then Bobby gave the first one a 2.5, and the second one a 2.5, and the third one a 1.5 as well. Alan gave the first one a 2.5, the second one a 3.5, and the third one a 1, right? So our average score, pretty solid, right? This is a decent franchise, I would say. Currently, we're sitting at a decent franchise.
I hate that for us. I gotta bring that score. Listen, I had a score in my mind, but I'm tanking this review right now.
Now, we're gonna play our classic game here, highest to lowest.
Ooh.
And so I'm gonna pass it to Alan first.
Okay.
Alan, what would you rate this movie out of 5?
So, what's gonna suck about this rating is I can't give it a 4. I can't do that. That's unacceptable. I understand that. But it is a 3.5. And the only reason I say that that's annoying is this is a better movie than 2. I think 2 I should have scored a 3. And this a 3.5. I think is how knowing what I know now, I think that makes more sense. I still enjoyed 2. 2 is great. This film for me kind of finally, it's the 4th franchise, and I feel like the franchise finally gets itself. It understands it finally gets what it needs to do to make a successful Insidious film that I think is enjoyable, actually has scares to it, which I've been wanting for 4 movies now, and I finally got it here. I think this movie capitalizes on its ideas. I think me making Bobby upset is very fun for me.
3.5 for this?
Yeah, absolutely. Without question.
You wanted to give it a 4, Alan?
No, I did not want to give it a 4. But the context of me saying it is better than 2 would by definition mean it's a 4.
It is better than 2,
but that's neither here nor there. I just think
Thank you. I love to see that face on Corbin's face real quick.
No, it is better than the second.
Oh my god.
I love this. So
that was the face. That was
this is a 3.5, and I think it is probably one of the best PG-13 horror films, period, in a general sense. So I'm going to then assume here we're going to pass it over to Corbin for the second best score.
So I wrote my score down when I watched this movie a couple days ago. And I locked it in. I was like, it is definitely this good. And in my memories, even though we had just reviewed these movies over the last 3 weeks, I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure this is the score I gave the first 2. I think it's about as good as those. But, I thought about it more, and I think that it deserves the score that I'm giving it. And maybe I was extra critical of the other ones, and this one just really got to where I wanted it to be. But I'm also giving this a 3.5. I really, really enjoyed this movie. apparently this is my highest rated out of the 4.
Guys.
And I think it's just like,
guys,
I do think that it's great PG-13 horror. I mean, it's exactly what I wanted out of this franchise. Like, it's really like slotting in Elise as the main character, is really like embracing the concepts. Like,
what are we doing?
This is the one, I think. This is my favorite one.
What are we doing? 3.5?
3.5, baby.
What are we doing?
That's not
gentlemen?
a super high score.
I'm
like,
listen.
We rate movies sometimes pretty highly on this show, right? I mean, our average score is a 3.3. So like, I think that this is right around there, a pretty typical, 3.5, like a point above average. I'm happy with that.
I will say this about Insidious: The Last Key. It is a better film than Insidious Chapter 3. That being said, I liked it less, so it is getting a 2 out of 5 for me.
Wow.
Slightly better, but I liked it less. I had way less. I had less fun with this movie than Insidious Chapter 3 was a bundle of laughs. Insidious Chapter 4 did not have nearly as many laughs. And I would say that, again, I feel like the first 2 movies are a litmus test for what is a good or a bad movie. I feel like Insidious Chapter 4, The Last Key, is worse than in the first 2 movies. And I would say Insidious Chapter 3 is markedly worse than Insidious Chapter 1 and 2.
Yeah, I mean, if we can all agree on anything, is that Insidious Chapter 3 is so clearly the worst.
I gave it a 1. Okay? Yes,
Terrible
it was
movie.
very bad.
It's the worst, and I feel like it would be the movie I would watch the most soon.
Yeah, I definitely don't agree with
I
that.
love because you guys don't like cringe, and your boy loves.
I like some cringe. Like this I mean, I don't know.
Come
Yeah,
on, man. Come on.
It's
Are
different.
you telling me? And this is just spoilers for the entire franchise at this point. You're telling me, nobody wants to see your food. They want you to eat it. Is not fucking comedy gold for all of the wrong reasons.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, I even had that in my notes. Like,
you're
that's
being so
line.
selfish.
It's a great line.
I'm drowning, Corbin. Corbin, you're being selfish with your reviews. I'm drowning.
But here's the thing, right? Like, we have to remember, like, I mean, those lines, while perfect S-tier lines.
Corbin, who's that? Who's that in the back corner of your screen right now? Corbin, who's that in the back corner of your?
That's a classic.
Frozen.
Yeah. All those other parts, right? Those happen over the course of like 90 seconds. I mean, like that's a long movie.
Corbin,
Insidious Chapter 3.
I love you, and I need you to kill yourself.
I don't know. I'm sorry, Bobby. This one was just
y'all
like,
laughed. Y'all laughed at every single
fun.
moment, and you know you did.
It was fun. It was stupid in the right ways. Like, I just really liked.
We
this
never
one.
even got to the serial killer subplot. But unfortunately,
there's a serial killer subplot.
That's not all we do on this podcast. We also decide whether or not Insidious: The Last Key is essential to horror as a whole. Now, of course, gentlemen, we know this, but this might be your first episode, dear listener, so we have to tell you that this section is, in fact, spoiler-free. And we'll go in reversed order from best to worst. Because we'll go in order of best opinion to worst opinion. And so we'll start with me, and we'll go with, of course this movie is not essential. I don't think any of these movies ever will be. I will make an addendum to this. I do not think, and this might actually be good for Corbin here, I do not think any one Insidious movie is essential to horror as a whole. But I do think that the Insidious franchise of films, and this might be a question we want to ask everybody, might be essential to horror as a whole. As it is probably one of the best and easiest ways to get into themes of and like the jump scare element of true horror without actually being very scary. It's a really good baby's first horror movie, or what I should say is teenager's first horror movie, because let's be honest, you shouldn't show this to a kid who's like 9 years old. They should probably at least be 11. But yeah, no to Insidious: The Last Key. but yes to the series, the franchise as a whole. There's not a single good essential movie here, but on the whole, it's probably worth watching. I spent a month doing it, and frankly, I don't regret it.
And honestly, that might be the most glowing review he could possibly give, because
on the back of the box of all 4 movies, I spent a watching these movies, and I don't regret it.
Yeah. Bobby was not really excited to watch it.
It was my suggestion, and I immediately regretted suggesting it.
Yeah. Seeing as how I gave the breakdown, right, like, we've said no, all 3 of us, for every single movie up until now, right? There has not been one single yes yet. And I was going to ask, do you think that the franchise is essential, right? Bobby's already answered for us. And so I'd like to start out by saying that I totally agree that the franchise is essential. I mean, I think between like the memes in the memes in the first movie and the old Elise is the lead, like there's like elements of this that are very unique that I really, really enjoy. And I mentioned it even at the kind of at the tail end,
you don't
like
have to do
this being a supernatural.
You don't have to do this, Corbin. You don't have to do
ghost
this.
Movie without any religious elements is powerful, not for me particularly, but for the genre as a whole.
Corbin, you can still maintain your dignity. You don't have to do this.
Don't I? I said this 4 weeks ago.
No.
I was confident that one of these movies was going to be essential.
Oh, no.
And over the weeks, I've doubted not only that one of these movies would be essential, but also that maybe the first one I should have just said yes to the first one. Because, in reality, maybe that's the one, right? Between, like, the Darth Maul Goblin, the meme of it, like, the incredible performance by Patrick Wilson. Like, there are things about the first movie that probably slots it in there.
I'm not going to fight you on that.
Now, if you were to watch Insidious chronologically, this is the first one.
No, it's not the second one.
And who watches the third one ever again? Nobody. Terrible movie. Don't watch the third. I think that this movie was the one that did what I wanted Insidious to do, right? And there is a key element that I've been waiting for Insidious to really capitalize on, that I was waiting to say yes to, and this is what I've had in mind the entire time, which is that at one of these movies, and I thought it was going to be the third one, Elise is going to be the clear and present lead. And that is going to make it essential, because there are no other major franchises with an elderly woman as the lead. And I think that that's unique.
Think of your children, Corbin, please.
This is the one that did it. For that, I'm going to give The Last Key a yes.
No!
Hey, Bob. Bob, I need you to take your headphones off.
Alan!
Bobby, I need you to take your headphones off.
What are we doing? The Last Key?
Not only is the franchise essential, this movie is absolutely essential to horror as a whole. Oh my god! This movie is, I think, a quintessential PG-13 horror film that will serve as a wonderful gateway.
I think
into
I'm gonna be
horror.
sick.
This movie easily is the scariest, I think, of any PG-13 horror movie I've ever seen, probably.
Oh my god, what are you guys doing?
That's fair.
What is happening?
Does it make you feel any...
time.
So yes, to me, the franchise, I think, kind of has to be. It's a household name. I mean, I often bring up, like, oh, how much money did this make? Because that, dollars and butts and seats does make a difference if we really want to break it down. Because frankly, none of these franchises really exist without either a cult following or money. And this one certainly has the money side of it, considering I think this movie made more than the first one.
This was the top. I think this was the
top grosser, and given by my score at a 3.5, I agree with that. This movie was definitely the best one so far. Yes, it is essential, and yes, the franchise is essential. And Bobby's gonna have a really bad time and is very mad at us.
Bobby's gonna have an aneurysm. I see it happen.
He got so mad he unplugged his mic. I love that.
Oh, yeah, this is very funny.
Speaking of Bobby's mic failing to record properly, what are your handles and what's happening, everybody? What have you been up to?
Well, you can find me anywhere, or rather on Twitter at Corbangarang, because the reality is I'm really nowhere else under that username. I have you can also find me on Twitter at Bolters_Bourbon and on Mastodon at Bolters and Bourbon. Those are the places that I talk about Warhammer, and Mastodon is kind of the main place for that for Twitter for Warhammer. If you're looking for a place to get away from Twitter like I was, that's kind of been a good little place to be. I know that some people are moving to Hive. Hive seems cool, but it's only on the phone. I don't really I try not to do a lot of social media on my phone, so that's not interesting to me. What have I been up to? I have been working through my Lego backlog lately. We are currently transitioning the house from fall to Christmas, and with that includes the setup of the annual Lego Holiday Village. So I've been building and setting that all up, which is super fun.
Do you build that and do you rebuild that every year?
No, but there's new sets that come every year.
Oh, okay, that's okay.
Yeah. So it's just the building is just like.
Do you have any idea how impressed I was about to be? Because that's like a whole thing. You need a picture of that so that people understand. Like, this is not just a simple endeavor. Like, there's a lot going on here.
Yeah, it's a whole it is a whole quest. But besides that, just the normal stuff. I have been playing the Tiny Tina's Wonderlands one shot, not the whole thing, but like it was the expansion to Borderlands 2. That's like sort of the prequel to Tiny Tina's Wonderland. I've wanted to get into Wonderland, and I was just waiting for it to go on sale, and I was like, I'll just play the one shot first. So I'm finishing that up, and Wonderlands is on sale right now, so I think next week that might be what I'm doing. But yeah, that's about it. Follow me at the aforementioned socials, and happy Thanksgiving.
You can find me at twitch.tv/TheRedWeenie. All of my relevant socials are there. I'm also at The Red Weenie on Mastodon, although I do not know how to get this fucking app to work, so nothing has come up yet.
Doesn't work well on phone.
Yeah, which I do all my social media on phone, which means I'm probably going to get on that Hive app. So see me next week at Twitch at The Red Weenie on Hive. I do not post. I am a lurker when it comes to internet content. Every so often I will feel the need to tell the world what I'm up to, and I'll post a picture of my dog or something like that on Instagram. Other than that, I have been I don't even know what I've been doing. I've been doing stuff. I've been doing life stuff, so that's just kind of been it. Haven't had really a lot of time for video games. I do a weekly D&D campaign right after we record this, so I rush off of here to get onto another Discord call to play D&D with some friends in and out of state. Yeah, I recently finished my campaign. I did a Call of Cthulhu campaign that went pretty well. It ended very successfully. So now I'm gonna go play D&D and have maybe actually a little bit more time for gaming. So we're gonna see what that looks like next week. But twitch.tv/TheRedWeenie. I don't stream there yet, but when our Destiny group decides to do Destiny, I'll be streaming at least one time a week, and possibly more times than that as my schedule frees or doesn't. So, yeah. Oh, also stream Ripper on your favorite music platform of choice by One Good Scare.
It's a good song. You should listen to it. You can find me at a Seal Punter just about anywhere. I have been continuing to listen to Galaxy in Flames. It's getting real good, let me tell you, as the heresy is developing into something more concrete than what it was in the previous two novels. I am going to be building some Custodes here very, very soon because I am a child and can't stop buying and building Warhammer figures, which there's going to be some Warhammer purchases most likely in all of our futures here very soon with the Battle Force boxes right around the corner. Games wise, been playing God of War and Pokemon. Pokemon came out. Violet. It's
true.
It's Pokemon. Yeah. I've got an Aerodactyl on my leg. I'm gonna play them all. It's Pokemon is very frustrating right now because this is probably
You're not 7 anymore,
huh?
Because you're not 7 anymore.
Yes,
I will say to the Pokemon thing, there is one spoiler that I do know about Pokemon that has gotten me rip-roaring ready to go for this new Pokemon game.
I don't know what that spoiler is, and I'm gonna keep it that way.
That's fine. It's a Pokemon spoiler. It's like a specific mon.
It's very. There's so many problems with this game, but man, I'm having fun playing it, and it's real annoying because like.
That's Pokemon.
Yeah, but it's a lot worse than this one comparatively. A lot worse.
Just play Showdown, man. Just play the game. Just deal with the bugs and the glitches. And
Showdown
I personally really hate
going.
Showdown.
Why?
I think it misses the point of Pokemon entirely. Showdown, because Showdown's like trying to make something that is inherently non-competitive competitive. It feels the same way as like people that take like Smash Brothers like really seriously. Like, yeah, I just can't get into it. I said it, and I meant it. I just can't get into it.
I'm double upset about both of this.
I know.
You keep.
This is a very upsetting episode for
keep
Bobby.
breaking my heart.
You know how much more upset is Bobby going to be in about 3 weeks though? That's the question I have.
That is a great question. So
my friends love to hurt me.
We do.
Mm-hmm. You can find the podcast at Essential Scares on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. The podcast has not joined any other social platforms yet. We should probably choose one and go somewhere because Twitter could disappear, I think, literally any day. Give us a follow. Give us a like on whatever platform that you listen to. If you liked the show, give us a rate, a review, subscribe. Whatever makes you happy, it makes us happy. This is the end of Insidious month, but we're gonna keep this franchise game going, right? So next up, we're gonna do 2 pairs of franchises, starting up with The Shining, which is gonna be The Shining and then Doctor Sleep back to back. So next week we'll be watching The Shining. And then 3 weeks from now, to say a nice like early Christmas gift to Bobby, we are going to be watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from the mid-2000s, the remake.
Yeah! It's going to be great. I'm so excited to like it and Bobby hate it.
As I'm sure anybody has realized from this last month of watching Insidious, it's just more fun when Bobby hates it. Thank you so much to everybody for listening and for watching. I have been your host, Corbin, and this has been Essential Scares.
Play that breakdown, baby.